Okay, so let's unpack this. We're about to jump into a really fascinating gardening project. It popped up in an online post someone shared.
Right, and the topic is aquaponics, which is interesting enough on its own, but this one's got a specific angle.
Exactly. It's about using, what's already there, specifically existing outdoor ponds.
hmm The source itself is a blog post. It's titled Notes on Gardening, Part 563, dated June 13th, 2025. And it's tagged with things like aquaponics, obviously, but also hydroponics and chili.
So our mission here really is to just dive into this personal story, this exploration of combining fish and plants. We want to get a feel for the starting point, and what they actually did right away.
Yeah, those initial steps,
And maybe we should quickly define aquaponics for anyone listening. Basically, it's a system for growing food. It merges aquaculture.
which is raising fish or other aquatic animals,
Right, aquaculture. And it combines that with hydroponics.
which is growing plants without any soil, usually in water.
So fish help plants, plants help fish. A neat little ecosystem.
But what really jumped out at me from the source was the author saying they weren't actually keen on aquaponics, or hydroponics for that matter, initially.
That's the surprising part. You think someone diving into this would be, totally obsessed with the concept beforehand?
Exactly. It wasn't some grand premeditated plan.
No. The author sort of describes how having these ponds already there, just sitting, plus their general love for gardening and,
Yeah.
having the tools around, it almost pushed them into it. Serendipity, maybe?
It does make you think about how projects, even complex ones, can just emerge, from the situation itself rather than a blueprint.
So what was the first concrete step then, according to the post?
Okay, so the very first thing they mentioned doing was purchasing some plant containers. Pots, essentially.
Just pods, okay. And then, did they start seeds?
Well, this is where the improvisation you mentioned comes in. They didn't start new seeds right away. They looked around
Yeah, okay.
and noticed that some plants, they list chilli, celosia, and get this, even some wild weeds.
Wild weeds,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yep, wild weeds. They'd already sprouted on these sponge cubes they had lying around. Leftovers, it seems, from trying to figure out something else with some plastic baskets they had.
Baskets that were already on top of the ponds.
Exactly. So they had these baskets, leftover sponge cubes with sprouts.
But now new pots.
Right. So the next logical step described in the post, just moving those living sprouts from the sponges directly into the new pots.
Wow, okay. That's super practical. Using exactly what was available at that moment. The sprouts, the ponds, just adding the containers.
It really feels less like building an aquaponics system and more like adapting what's already there piece by piece.
Yeah, and that kind of practical make-do start immediately brings up the next challenge, which the author points out.
Which is,
Well, the post says the very next step is figuring out how to actually arrange these new pots within those existing plastic baskets, the ones sitting on the ponds.
right. They talk about wanting to properly use what they call the previously neglected spaces in those baskets.
Neglected spaces. I like that. Seeing potential where maybe nothing was happening before.
Precisely. Turning an unused area into a productive part of this new evolving system.
So thinking about this for you, the listener,
Yeah.
this deep dive into just the beginning of this project makes you consider, well, starting points, doesn't it?
Mm.
It's not always about having the perfect setup or a clean slate. Sometimes, like with these neglected spaces or finding unexpected sprouts, maybe the best way to begin is just using what's right there.
Yeah, resources you might not even have noticed right under your nose. It kind of challenges that idea. You need everything perfectly planned before you start something ambitious.
Absolutely.
And what strikes me, too, is how those limitations of the existing ponds, the specific baskets,
Yeah.
they weren't roadblocks. They actually seemed to direct the very first actions. It wasn't a vague, I want to do aquaponics. It became, how can I make aquaponics work here with this stuff?
Mhm.
It's a really interesting lesson in, well, resourcefulness.